Nestling in the heart of some of Scotland's most spectacular scenery, Comrie is the epitome of everyone's idea of a true Highland village. Centred between the ancient town of Crieff to the east and the beautiful Loch Earn to the west, modern-day Comrie is an amalgam of three older communities: Comrie, Dalgenross and the Ross. And it was to Ross that 7 1/4 society members came to take part in a weekend which was to prove boundless in both colour and excitement.
Well, here we are at Comrie in Scotland. Welcome to the 7 1/4 Gauge Society 1996 AGM, the very first held up here. The weather in the week has been excellent, but it's now, shall we say, typically Scottish. But really what you want to see is the AGM and all the engines. So just sit back and enjoy the 50 or so engines assembled on this magnificent track, courtesy of Bob Smith.
As the first rays of the early morning September sunshine broke through the Scottish mist, many 7 1/4 Gauge Society members were already busily unwrapping, gleaming and steaming their locos. And all around and about the engine shed at Easterhouse Junction was bustling with activity, with each driver eager for their first run on Comrie Railroad's magnificent track. As brasses were given a final polish, some went on bended knee to offer up the 7 1/4 Gauge railwayman's prayer. Chris Summersall had travelled up from Harrogate with his majestic-looking and majestically named 262 loco, King Jack. Chris built this loco over a period of 4 years, basing the design on an engine originally intended for the Southern Railway in the mid-1930s, but which in fact never went into production because there were apparently problems with the axle loadings in relation to the track on which it was meant to run. Completed in 1990, King Jack, with just 1 or 2 minor design differences from the original, handled Comrie's somewhat challenging track with ease. Another visitor from Harrogate was Walter Scott, with his 1/8 scale American Baldwin 440 Roanoke. This colourful little loco was designed by John Clark and built by Walter between 1991 and 1993. With the fascination for the days of the old Wild West still as strong as ever, Roanoke captures both people's attention and imagination wherever it appears. Andrew Hall told us that he believed his 040 saddle tank to be the only true British loco running here, owned by a Scot, built by an Englishman, and bearing the Welsh name Baldwin. Andrew, who is a retired testing officer with a local water board, has had a lifelong interest in model engineering, and living only a few miles away in Glasgow, is naturally a frequent visitor to Comrie Railroad. Baldwin, a freelance design built by John Drury in 1980, is clearly at home here. Maintaining the Welsh theme was Bob Washington's Deirdrith Castle, which Bob built himself from scaled-down Festiniog railway drawings of Harlech Castle. This slightly over 1/3 size petrol-hydraulic loco is powered by a 2-cylinder Honda petrol engine. Looking just a little like a giant bee in its yellow and grey Festiniog Railway departmental livery, Dydworth Castle fairly buzzed around Comrie's circuit. A word of warning to the unsuspecting. This 260 plantation type narrow gauge loco was completed in 1950, which probably made it one of the oldest, if not the oldest loco running this weekend. Owned by Roderick McRae, who had travelled up from Tong Norton in Shropshire, Hilton Queen was originally one of a Tommy and Teddy pair, built to run on the Herne Bay Pier Railway. Truly a lady of power, the curves and gradients here, which caused a few to falter over the weekend, presented no threat to Hilton Queen, despite her advancing years. Ably assisted by Tony Halliday, Norman Sheard soon had his 040 Hunslet narrow gauge loco fired up and ready for the track. Completed by Norman in 1993, Idris is a 1/3 representation of that seemingly tireless breed of quarry locos, which laboured so hard for many years, especially in the North Wales slate quarries. Idris's home track is at Northcliffe Miniature Railway in Bradford, but it has clocked up several hundreds of miles on various other tracks across Britain. We talked with Stuart Proctor about his loco.
Okay. Right, Stuart, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about the locomotive here, how old it is, when it was built, where it runs, etc.?
Well, to the best of our knowledge, it was built around about 1954, and it was built from the original works drawings by a lad called Tom Arlington, who is a member of the Rolls-Royce Model Engineering Club. And we have our premises now in Barshaw Park in Paisley, and that's where we have our track, where we run.
How's the loco been running here for you?
It's been running very well. We've been bringing it up now for about the 10 years that we've been coming up to the track with Bob, and it's gradually getting more and more track to run on it.
Good.
But
and the inclines here, no problem for it?
It's giving it a bit of problem now because it has mechanical gear. It's a BSE Bantam gearbox, and the clutch plates are in the oil along with the gears, so the oil gets hot, thins down and makes the clutch plates slip. So sometimes we get up the hill without any bother, sometimes it's like an automatic, you almost come to a halt and it just crawls up and eventually picks away.
Oh, right. Well, thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you.
Okay.
This Black 5 was yet another visitor from the Yorkshire spa town of Harrogate. Owned by Andrew Budge, number 45177 was built by Graham Cockle in 1985. Between 1934 and 1951, no fewer than 842 Black 5s were put into service, and as mixed traffic locos they were outstanding. Many remained in operation right up to the very last days of steam in 1968, and it is surely understandable why Black 5s earned a special place in the hearts of many railway enthusiasts, and also why they are chosen by model engineers to be recreated in miniature. This 060 narrow gauge side tank was one of two locos of this type appearing at Comrie this weekend. This particular one is owned by Roger Lockwood, who was one of a group of members who had journeyed across the Irish Sea from County Down. This Waldenberg number 6 bears the green and black livery of the 1912 Swiss prototype, which is now resident in the Transport Museum in Lucerne. Rogers Loco was built in 1981 by Les Nelson, and it is a regular runner on the Belfast and County Down Miniature Railway Society track. Steam billows skywards through the trees as Enid set off. Enid, another 1/3 scale Hunslick quarry loco, had been brought from Chester by owner Jim McKnight. Jim completed this loco in 1991 and has run it at many different tracks and events up and down the country. Jim told us that he is now in the process of building a 7 1/4 Thomas II, so we can perhaps look forward to seeing that at the next Society AGM rally. Although we hope this won't be the last time we have the pleasure of seeing Enid in her Caledonian blue coat. David Parnell had had a disappointing visit to Frimley with Kingfisher for the last AGM gathering. Because the engine's back-to-back wheel measurement wasn't quite right for Frimley's combination track, it had difficulty in negotiating the points and was consequently confined to running on a few yards of track laid outside the marquee. David told us that since then he had, in true model engineer parlance, tweaked a component or two, and that Kingfisher was now problem-free. Indeed, that proved to be so, as both David and his 260 freelance loco enjoyed plenty of good runs around Comrie circuit. At all times a close eye was kept on the track, and any attention needed was given immediately to ensure uninterrupted running. This delightful 040 loco, based on a Bagnall saddle tank, is owned by the Society Membership Secretary, David Everingham. Although David was not able to tell us who built the loco, he did say that it was completed in 1989 and is fitted with a copper marine type boiler. Mustang Connery, in its deep Indian red livery and with its name contrasted in white, presented quite a picture and attracted much attention. This little lady was put together in almost a record-breaking 7.5 months by Paul Frank from Ulverston. Paul used scaled-down drawings to produce this quarter-size Bagnall Mercedes-class loco, which he christened Victoria. Victoria's home track is Millerbeck Light Railway, but it was here at Comrie that she made her maiden run, and she clearly found Comrie's track suited her perfectly. We asked Brian Jones to tell us something about his splendid loco.
Tell me about Finn McCall here.
It's one of a small class of 042 locomotives. The original was built for Pico in Devon by Roger Marsh, who designed it, and this particular one was built by TMA in Birmingham 10 years ago.
Right.
And in fact, Brett Rogers, who is one of the directors of TMA, is here today with Peggy.
Ah, yes, yes. And how long have you had
About 2 years now. I've owned it. Yeah.
And where do you normally run?
It normally stays in Northern Ireland, and it lives at the Transport Museum at Coultraw, where there is a 7 1/4 gauge miniature railway there as well.
Track there, right. And I mean, obviously you've come to Comrie, and how have you found her running here?
Great.
Yes,
Fine.
good.
Yes, great. It's a marvellously scenic line.
Isn't it just?
With some lovely climbs on it. Really makes the locomotive work hard.
Yes.
And
quite exciting.
It is indeed, yes. Particularly if you're coming around the corner here behind us.
Yes.
And heading back down towards the station. If someone has stopped just around that corner, you can really have a difficulty pulling up yourself.
It's all anchors on then.
It is indeed,
Where else have you taken her this year? Anywhere special?
I was down at Pico this year in June, and 2 years ago we had it at Bettis Quaid.
Yes, that's right.
It's actually on your video
yes,
at
that's
that
right.
time, so it is, that's right.
Yes.
And I hope to take it to Pico again next year. They have actually they're in the process of building a Super Thomas 2.
Oh,
which is going to be a 242.
Yeah.
And I believe it's going to be painted in the same colour as this one.
Oh,
which
have a matching set.
We're matching set, which is Tacoloid Crimson.
Oh.
And it'll certainly look well. We'll get
It's
the two of them together.
Livery, I must say. Yes, it really is. Right, Brian, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Mike Henderson had brought along his 1/8 scale 060 Caledonian Railway dock tank. Built by Gordon Jones from Chester around 1987, number 534 is an exact replica of a dock tank designed by the famous locomotive engineer John F. McIntosh. The originals were built during the First World War and were given the nickname Beetle Crushers. Mike has been involved in the world of miniature railways for many years, owning Lakeshore Railroad at South Shields, for which Mike told us is currently building an American 464. Although 534 may have been somewhat dwarfed in stature by some of the bigger boys out and about over the weekend, 534 wasn't daunted and showed that small can be equally powerful. A 7 1/4 event these days without this locomotive is almost unthinkable. So our thanks to Bob Danton for bringing Baloo all the way from Winterbourne. Bob began building Baloo in 1980, but it was a decade later when he actually finished it. Baloo was designed by Jack Buckley as a 7 1/4 version of the 5-inch Sweet Pea, which itself was based on a narrow gauge Bagnall. Bob was once a scout leader, and he told us that this is how his engine came to be named Baloo. This annual event provides the opportunity for 7 1/4 gauge society members from home and abroad to meet and exchange views and news. Here, Theo Thielenberg lends Keith Parkinson a helping hand to roll out Pandora. When Keith designed and built Pandora, he used the 040 Hunslet Dalbardon as a model for his design. Pandora normally runs on the Bradford Model Engineering Society track, although Keith has taken her to a variety of venues around Britain. Unlike the Pandora of Greek mythology, Keith's loco didn't have any surprises for us. She ran as well as she looked, including some double heading with Norman Sheard and Idris. These two young ladies, Lindsay and Sally Nicholson, with their father John, and his 4-wheel battery electric Dock Authority loco, were also visiting from the textile manufacturing town of Bradford. The locomotive is another from the highly skilled hands of Keith Parkinson, which he completed in 1981. Even though the sun didn't shine all the time, and there was the occasional autumnal nip in the air, Sally and Lindsay proved themselves to be of stalwart stock, determined that neither rain, cloud or Scottish breeze could stop them enjoying themselves. Comrie was Tigger's first outing since appearing at Frimley in '95. Joint owners Ross Alderman and David Burley told us that in Tigger's year-long absence from the track, it had undergone a thorough and complete overhaul, which included replacing all the bearing brasses and fitting a vacuum braking system. Tigger obviously appreciated all the time and attention Ross and David had lavished on her, and with a rejuvenated spring in her step, she performed well all weekend. Mike Lloyd and son Jonathan had brought their four-wheel battery electric steeple cab type loco with them from Castleton. Mike had to take very much a back seat, or rather no seat at all, as Jonathan took the controls of Ranger for most of the time they were here. The sturdy little loco with its distinctive diamond pantograph, with a very confident and competent Jonathan at the helm, proved to be a perfect partnership. We asked one of the visitors from the Netherlands to tell us something about himself and his battery electric tram.
Name and where you're from, please.
My name is Theo Tielenburg and I am from The Hague. That's to say, our club is in The Hague and myself I'm living in Zoetermeer in Holland. That's about 10-12 kilometers out of The Hague. Right.
Tell me a little bit about your locomotive here. It's drawn a great deal of attention, so...
Yes, I gathered that of all the remarks that I got. Well, my locomotive, I started thinking of building something like it because my early retirement came up. Mm-hmm. So I had met Stuart because my wife is Scottish and we have family up here, so I'm more or less connected here. Yes. And then he said, why not go to the 7.25 inch size? That's far better than the small ones. Yeah. So he took me up one day here. That was me also, and I started looking for drawings and for things, and I came up with this model. Yes. Has been only one original in Holland. Oh, right. And it's still running in a preservation society, but I like the model.
Yes, it's lovely.
It looks modern and yet it has a kind of severe, stern look about it. Yes. So I said, well, that will it be.
That's and
I started about 3.5 years ago.
Yes. And do you think this is going to be the only one, or are you planning to do...
I know there's another one in the attic at the moment, which is halfway finished. Mm-hmm. I hope to finish that coming winter.
Oh, right.
It's the same length as the motor car, but it's teak-bodied, clear-storied roof, passenger trailer car.
Oh, right.
Which was actually where this was made from.
Very good. So we can look forward to seeing that one at the next AGM,
oh, yes.
can we?
Oh yes, definitely. I will be here more.
Lovely.
And I wish the tram as well.
Thank you very much indeed.
Whilst throughout the weekend most of the resident locals, like Tapots, Sam and Old Reekie, remained stabled in the engine shed, Bob Smith's Rio Grande class, K36 local number 483, was kept busy as a passenger hauler, and it was on this magnificent steed Bob took us on a conducted tour of Comrie Railroad.
Here's the new turntable and sidings built especially for this A.G.M. The
plenty of locomotives in evidence, and we've had a great weekend. The weather's been fine, and there's Larry. We're going down a 1 in 50 slope at the moment. And coming on to 1 in 150 for a little while. On the right again is a little cemetery for all the dogs that have lived in the place over the years. I think there's about a dozen in there now. And one of the 3 cuttings on the line we've had to dig out. That one was done by a machine. Which they managed to do in about 2 days. We're going down approximately 1 in 48 now. Plenty of cars in the field for this event. Just coming on to what was the last bridge to be built on the line, the 4th bridge. That was done in 1989, or 1988 I think, we did this one. Coming up to the lower road crossing. And we'll have to stop while the train in front clears us. The line was started in 1982. And the final spike was put in 1989. This is us now in Comrie Station, the lower Comrie Station, where we pick up the few days I run for the public. They all get on the train here, ready to go again. This stretch of track is level along the side of the pond, or what was a pond. It's a bit dried out now. We've had so little rain. Passing Katie on the left. Approaching a little halt called Earthquake, and it's called that because in the adjacent field there's a little building that was put up in the middle of the last century to record all the frequent but minute earthquakes that occur here. The building was refurbished several years ago by a youth training program, and there is now a modern seismograph installed, which any time there's an earthquake anywhere in the world, one can go down and look through the window and see the squiggles on the graph. Off from earthquake halt, over to Ross, over the Crane Girder Bridge. Here we go. driving in Ross Halt, where my very understanding neighbour lives in the house on the left, and she doesn't mind the railway at all, I hope. Here we go, up the hill now. We're starting a 1 in 50 climb all the way back up to the top road crossing. There we go. Hopefully not slipping this time. This was the first cutting to be dug out, and that was done with a machine as well. At the time they were building the house there, it was in to do the big hole for the septic tank, so he came over and did the cutting for me. Engine started to work a bit. Small steel girder bridge, which will have to be beautified sometime. And now we're on the 1 in 50 climb all the way to the top. Throttle halt, and we're onto the timber trestle. This is the first bridge to be built. Climbing a 1 in 50, coming up to the top road crossing. Well, we changed to 1 in 23 for about 100 feet. That always makes the engines work very hard. Small loco on the top line. Making it this time. We've sanded the rails. There's the cutting on the line. That was hand done by a team over a 3-week period. That's why the other two were done by machine. Coming alongside the original line that Professor Walker built. American 440. Fire in the plate here. So coming back into the station again. That completes the circuit. I've got a burning rag here. And we are back to where we started. 830 yards according to some people, 780 according to others. They'll have to get their mileometers checked. All right.
Receiving a wee drop of lubrication is another powerful looking beast from Bob Smith's stable. Numbered 1982 for the year it was completed, this freelance designed Bobo is fitted with an 850cc automatic gearbox mini engine. After the sun had gone down and the engines were resting in the shed, it was the ideal time to study many of the locals at close quarters. But for some, the day didn't end there. For those with adventure in their blood, this was the time to put their local driving skills fully to the test. and there were plenty of eager passengers ready to share in the excitement, as Bob Smith's 282 and Brett Rogers' 242 powerfully double-headed their way round Comrie Railroad's challenging track in a dark September night. For some, it was back to the bothy for a reviving wee dram. The next morning, Brian Howarth talked with Bob Smith about his marine engines.
Now, no, nothing too technical here. Like what makes it go?
Well, I know what makes it go. That's it. No, it's a little bit more, showing us a bit more about them. How old is?
Well, this one is built by Sissons in 1906, number 654, and there's obviously a launch engine, but we're not sure what launch or when it came. It probably was in a launch until about the start of the First World War, when they took all these sort of things out and put petrol engines in. And this one's going back in a launch, hopefully next year, the hull I'm having done up at the moment. That one, this is a compound, two-cylinder, about 2 3/4 inch and I think 5.5 by 4-inch stroke. Now this is probably rated about 10 horsepower.
At what pressure is that?
Well, 120 pound pressure normally for a compound. The other one is a triple, and I'm not sure of the date of that, but it's probably about 1900. And that's another launch engine, and that's probably about 15 horsepower. And that's about 2 3/4, 3.5 and 5-inch cylinders, 4-inch stroke. And that also probably went out of use about the First World War. So they've managed to survive all these years. But this week is probably the first time they've been run in 60 years. The boiler is a Merryweather B type. Merryweather used to make fire pump and fire engines. And that was built in 1944 for the Army, because it's got an Army number stamp on it with a little arrow. And it was steamed for the very first time 2 months ago in 1996. So it's 40 to 50. It's 52 years old, but that's the first time it's been in steam 2 months ago. So it's actually a brand new boat, and that's going in the launch, hopefully, to go with this engine. And then we'll have a steam launch, hopefully. Another mad project.
And how big's the launch it's going into?
27 feet.
Is that the sort of size it would have been?
That's about the size these boats. The engine would have been 25, 30 feet, probably. Would have been fine for that, yeah. So it's all very good. There's a few bits missing which I've had to make. But there we are. That's as much as I can tell you.
Oh, bloody hell. Do you know, I lost my driver's cap. I've just found it.
End of the call.
Oh dear, come out, you brute. Come on.
How long has that been missing?
Oh, since Sunday. Oh, my poor cat.
Put it on right away.
Oh dear. Oh, I feel reunited now.
Thank goodness Derek Brown found his hat. We're sure it contributed to the smooth running of his recently completed 040 Hunslet, which Derek had fondly named Tony Priest in memory of his friend. This 1/8 scale British Rail Standard Class 3 260 loco is jointly owned by Jim Lennox and Andrew Glenn. Built in 1984 and suitably dressed in BR black livery, number 77020 has been fitted with outside Stevenson valve gear. Jim, who comes from Lanark, and Andrew from Glasgow, told us that although Strathaven is 77020's home track, they are frequent visitors to Comrie. Anyone can become a train spotter. Many will recall the christening of number 3 Jill at the 1995 September gathering in Frimley. Bob Gray told us that he incorporated a selection of special features from the several different railways when he built Jill, which he completed in 1993 after 6.5 years. Bob, who is chairman of the Stoke-on-Trent Model Engineers, is currently involved in the construction of the new track at Finney Gardens in Bucknell. This little lady is another local lass. Owned by Donald Peddy from Glasgow, this 042 Bridget design tank was built and completed in 1992 by David Smallwood in Cumbria. Well attuned to Comrie Railroad's challenging curves and gradients, Katie showed herself to be a sturdy and reliable little engine. As Katie headed back towards Easterhouse Junction, Eric Doyle was donning his auctioneer's mantle.
Right now, folks, today's one and only auction piece is this magnificent cake. I would say it's roughly an 042 with a four-wheel tender. There's track with it, and there's coal courtesy of Bassett's. Magnificent looking piece. Now, who's going to start me for a good cause at £3? £3, am I bid £3? £3 from the man with the video. Any advance on £3?
350.
350 here, I've got 350.
5.
5. Any advance on 5? Is that 550 or 6? 550. Any advance on 550? 6. 650. Oh, we've got a real thing going here right now. Who was it with at 6? Right. 650, right. Any advance on 650 for this magnificent piece? Work of art, never to be... 7, right. Come on, folks. You can do better than £7 for a good cause. I'm sure you can. Oh, surely we can make it a tenner. You know? Can I jump straight to £10, anybody?
Yeah, a tenner.
A tenner. Am I selling at £10? Am I selling at £10? Any advance on £10, folks? Going! Going! Gone to the gentleman for a tenner. Thank you very much.
Have you got a sweet tooth, John?
If you'll give it to the young lady there.
This 040 Jesse type saddle tank had been brought over from Holland by Frank de Busser. Frank told us that he built this loco 14 years ago and christened it Dotje, for in Dutch the name means pretty little thing. An appropriate name for a delightful little engine, which Frank says always runs as well as it looks. Roy Thompson began building this loco in 1987 and finished it in 1994. Designed by Ken Swan, this somewhat unusual couple loco, we understand there are currently only about 4 or 5 others running in the UK. Normally runs at the Winterbourne track. Wonder if it ever runs out of steam there.
Oh dear, dear, dear.
Oh dear, 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 dear. First time I've done that. Putting all that water in.
Give him a whistle so he'll...
A bit of friendly persuasion, and Maria Suez was soon on its way again. We asked David Everingham to tell us about another loco which had caught our eye.
Right, David, can you tell me a little bit about Tinkerbell, please?
Yes, I'm sure I can. Tinkerbell is owned by Larry Jones from Blackpool, and he built it himself in the period of about 12 months, which is a very fast building time for a locomotive of this size and complexity.
Right.
It was completed in 1990, and he fitted a speedometer and mileometer to it about 3 months after he'd completed it, and that now registers a mileage of 935 miles.
Goodness me.
Although I would have expected it to register more than that, the number of times I've seen it running. Tinkerbell is a sort of basic design by a man called Roger Marsh, who designed other locomotives as well as the Tinkerbell. They're normally built as 042s, as this one is. That's 4 driving wheels and 2 trailing wheels to support the weight of the driver at the back. And it's unusual for 7 1/4 size locomotive in that the driver actually sits in it. Now that is one of the real
pluses,
yes. I think, certainly from the driver's point of view.
Keeps the weather off a little bit, doesn't it?
It does now. It's got a cab. He built the cab, I think, about 6 months after the locomotive was completed. And it's got all-weather protection in that it has sliding doors. I thought they were power operated, but I'm told they're hand operated. Sliding doors, which you can... there they are, there's one being closed. And the other one will in a moment. And then,
there we go.
So in the wet weather you can be totally enclosed there, and you can get into your own little world and forget everybody else.
Oh, that's marvellous, isn't it? Absolutely.
Except perhaps the signalman.
Oh no, mustn't forget him. And where does it normally run?
It normally runs at Blackpool on the White Gables Railway.
Right.
You see the cunning use of the Great Western Railway
yes, indeed.
letters rearranged there.
Yes, indeed. Right. And how's it got on running here at Comrie?
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Fine, yes.
The inclines have been acceptable to it, not.
Well, I managed to run out of steam on one of the inclines yesterday, and I'm sure other people have done something similar. But well, it's a very reliable performer. It's very nice locomotive to drive.
Stunner. Right, thank you very much, David.
Thank you. Okay.
get off, I've got cramp.
Don Cotto, with his 1/8 narrow gauge 040 Sweet William design tank, fittily named Comrie, had travelled from Winchester to take part in this event. Since its completion in 1995, Comrie had clocked up quite a few miles at different tracks around and about Britain. Don said that earlier in the week, Comrie had suffered a hot axle box, but repairs were swiftly carried out and Comrie was soon back on track again and running as well as ever. This stunning loco belongs to Cyril Chandler from South Wales. Cyril told us that his 1/8 scale Highland Railway Jones Good loco is almost an exact miniature replica of the full-size number 103, which is housed at the Glasgow Museum of Transport. The engine was painted and lined in the original loco livery of 1894, and all the fine details added with the aid of photographs of the prototype. Brian Howard's Sprinter put in its usual sterling performance as a passenger carrier. Even when fully loaded, this loco just seemed to glide effortlessly around the circuit. Built in 1991, this loco can be run as a 2, 3 or 4 car set, and Brian said, running with 3 cars at a recent event, the Sprinter carried nearly 8,000 cubs over 2 days. Although that impressive passenger total wasn't matched on this occasion, the Sprinter was nevertheless kept pretty busy throughout the weekend. A grin from Jim Large as he and Biddy slowly made their way up the 1 in 23 incline from the timber trestle. But life's a bit easier as they head through the cutting down towards Comrie Station. Built by Mick Williams of Rugby Model Engineering Society around 1985, Biddy usually runs on Jim's own railway at home in Stoke-on-Trent. But Jim is also actively assisting in the design and construction of the new Finney Garden Railway, which will eventually become Biddy's second home. For some, railways have absolutely no appeal. This little chap, and by that we mean the Corrie slate wagon, was originally built by owner John Morton as a static exhibit. But with the addition of a battery and motor, John transformed it into what he described as a fun item for running at local fetes and fairs. John, who is a member of the Corrie Railway Society and a frequent visitor to Mid Wales, told us that here at Comrie his slate wagon completed its full 2-hour run without any problems, although the battery was a bit low at the end. Brian Ward brought along his 1/8 scale Fowler 2F 060 dock tank, which he only completed in April this year. Modelled on one of only 10 locos of this type built in Derby between 1928 and 1929, number 7105 was built from Brian's own drawings and patterns for all the cast parts. '7105 was greatly admired as it powered its way around the woodland curves, handling them and testing gradients with the utmost ease. Sadly, the weekend wasn't all plain sailing, or rather running, for one member. In fact, Paul Lazenby and his battery electric 1/8 scale British Rail 060 shunter did very little running at all.
Oh, come on. No, I'm
Paul explained that D2280 was his first attempt at building a 7 1/4 gauge loco, and that he learnt a great deal from its construction, which he believes will stand in good stead for his next project, which is to be a steam loco. Paul told us that his motto is, if you make a mistake whilst building, don't let it stop you, just get on with it. With that sentiment, we feel sure we'll be seeing Paul again at future rallies. Bob Butler took a break from working on his loco to talk to us.
Right, and tell me a little bit about Casey, a very splendid loco.
I think it was about 10 years when I finished it. It took me 3 years to build it. It's all out of scrap.
Right.
It's half size of the one at Fairburn. Oh, it was at Fairburn, I should say.
Yeah.
It's at Cleethorpes.
Right.
Cleethorpes Railway.
Where do you normally run her?
All over.
All over?
So normally
Forever.
at Blackpool. Just outside Blackpool it is.
And is that your own track or is that a club track?
Well, it's a club track.
It's a club
goes
track.
to Larry Jones.
Right.
It's White Gables Railway.
Yeah. How's it been running here in Comrie?
Oh, it's smashing. We've been up there a few times.
Good.
Been up at Hogmanay and sampling the waters.
That's the way. And you haven't had any problems with the inclines?
No.
She's quite high-powered to
Oh, yeah,
cope with.
It slips a little bit, but it's not bad.
Good.
Just having a bit of trouble with the brakes. It could have been built, I've never noticed.
Oh dear. Well, I better leave you to get on and rescue that, and thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brian Hurd, who described himself as a very, very nice man when we asked him what he did for a living, had brought his nearly completed representation of a Burma Railways Corporation centre cab loco with him from Dalkeith. Immortalised in the classic 1957 film Bridge on the River Kwai, Burma Railways was of course partly built by POWs during the Second World War. Brian's eye-catching locomotive certainly added an extra dimension to the gathering. This 1/3 size 040 Hunslet Quarry loco shares the same name with owner and builder David Tedford's wife. David, who is chairman of the Belfast and County Down Miniature Railway Society, built Winifred number 25 over a 4-year period in the latter half of the 1980s. David and Winifred number 1 said that their society members are, at the moment, extremely busy extending their club track at Donaghadee from 580 to 1,000 metres, and that they hope one day to be the first to host the 7 1/4 AGM event in Ireland. This Hunslet, in its bright red livery, belongs to John Hartop from Lancaster. John told us that he included an old copper boiler when he built Bert, which took him 2 years to do. Ten-year-old Bert, normally running at the Steamtown track at Carnforth, made a colourful addition to the weekend, and here we see Bert and John leading a convoy back to Easter House. Looking absolutely resplendent in maroon and black livery, and with its highly polished brasses glinting like gold, Arthur Beswick's narrow gauge Romulus presented quite a picture. Arthur, who built Lancashire Lads in his spare time, told us that he is not an engineer by trade, but this engine shows that Arthur is certainly an engineer by nature. And it was on Lancashire Lad that Bob Smith took us for a ride around Comrie Railroad's original line.
We're now going through the engine shed, very smoky, with other locomotives steaming up. Bit of a tight squeeze here. passing the first turntable that was built for the line. We're proceeding up onto the original line built by Professor Walker in during the 70s. He put this line in when he was living at the house here. And I used to come up with a friend of mine and give him a hand when he was running it on the 2 or 3 occasions a year for the public. One of the many cuttings we've got on the line here. All dug out by hand, that one, I think. We've just renewed this section, widened the embankment a bit to make it a bit more safe. We're now coming into the original Comrie station, now passing the famous Comrie Hilton, which the helpers converted from a hen house into a luxurious sleeping apartment. Rather a steep little curve here. We're now about to go back on to the new main line, which I started building in 1982. Over the crossover. And we're now on the new main line.
Peter Rigby, who had travelled across the Firth of Forth from Winchborough, had brought with him the second of the 2 Waldenburgs seen here this weekend. This loco was the younger of the 2, having only been completed in 1995, and it attracted a great deal of attention. We understand from Peter that he is in the process of constructing a line suitable for narrow gauge locos in his garden, and currently has about 200 metres of track laid. Meanwhile, Peter continues to run Waldenburg at local tracks and events. When we asked if someone would tell us something about number 25 Peggy, it proved to be a case of drawing straws and...
Right, first of all, can you tell me your name and where you're all from, please? I can see there's a group of you.
Yeah, I'm Simon Hudson, but I'm not directly with the engine. The engine's from Lichfield,
right.
Owned by Brett Rogers.
Yes.
Yeah, it was built 10 years ago in Bristol.
Uh-huh.
Bought by Brett a few years ago now, rebuilt in 1993 into the state that you see it in now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes locomotive. Used to run in America. The full size did.
Right.
The original loco was a 262. Whereas this is a 242, which means it's slightly smaller. But as you can see, it's a very big engine anyway.
It's certainly a very powerful one, that's for sure. Right, and there's a little bit about the history. I understood there was something in relation to those plates or something? Someone pointing out to me?
This is the only 7¼ inch steam locomotive in the Guinness Book of Records. A couple of years ago now, we did a record-breaking run where we ran for 24 hours and did the most miles that we could in 24 hours. We actually did 168 miles non-stop, this was.
Goodness me.
Right the way through the night. It's quite fun.
And you actually shared in the driving for that, did you?
Yeah, I did a few stints on the driving. So there's about 20 people involved in driving.
Took it in turns.
And just sort of jumped on as it came through the station.
Oh, I see. It didn't stop at all. Right. Well, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Brett Rogers later told us that the record-breaking run referred to by Simon was not in fact non-stop, but it was most certainly the longest. And there is no grander or more fitting sight in salute to Bob Smith and everyone at Comrie Railroad than Peggy and Bob's own 483 double-heading away with another full load of passengers.